Okay, so here we are. Welcome to another KARJAKA and Coffee. I'm Alex KARJAKA, bringing you my tuxedo jacket blazer. I've been getting some compliments on my blazer game, jacket game, and so I thought, get out the old tux. Anyway, coffee today is from CSEY, or say SEY. I never can say that right. Anyway, lovely Colombian light roast. Those guys over there make some wonderful stuff out in Brooklyn. Anyway, today I want to talk about focal lengths just for a quick second. And what I mean by that is, well, before we get into that, like, listen to this. This sound, this feeling is the best feeling in the world. I play clarinet. I've traveled around the world. I've tasted wonderful ice cream and like magnificent alcohol and seen amazing art. And at the end of the day, like the sound of my shutter and like advancing the frame, this is the sexiest thing to me. Like I love this. So this is the first camera, like real professional camera that I learned on. This is my father's Argus Cassina. And I was like 12 and a half when my father first gave me this camera. He'd been showing me how to like set up frames my entire life with my eye. We'd go to the park, we'd go to the zoo, we'd be sitting in traffic, we'd be watching movies, and my father's like helping shape my eye and what to look for. But he never, like, unlike other fathers, would be like, okay, so you press this button, you do this whole sort of thing. My father like helped me put film in the canister, advanced it, and said go, which at the time and for a lot of years I was really frustrated by. And then I realized like it was probably one of the greatest things he had ever done. But because he didn't imprint on how he took photographs or how other people did, he just said, okay, like this is a 35 millimeter. There's Kodak film in here. It's 200 ASA. We'll cover that another time. And this is a 50 millimeter lens. And so what I wanted to talk to you about today is I've started, like, in case you've been following me on Instagram and other places, in our MailChimp mailer and whatnot, which you can subscribe on karjaka.com by, hey, I've been doing Monday musings, and in that, one of the first one that I think we did was talking about the 50 millimeter lens and why I kind of abhor zoom lenses to a certain extent. Like a lot of people, when you buy your first like prosumer camera, you'll get a zoom, like a lens that goes from 24 to 70, or it goes from like 50 to 5,000 or 500 or whatever. It's a lot of focal lengths broken down, and basically what that means is a zoom carries a lot of basically, without going into a huge optics lesson here, this is called a prime lens, and this is a 50 millimeter prime lens. And this is, it's called the Nifty 50 because it can shoot everything. And basically, it's how your eye sees life, so to speak. And so what a zoom lens does, it takes like a 35 millimeter, a 24 millimeter, and an 80 millimeter, or like a 105 and beyond, that can zoom across a football field, and it compacts all that into a one piece of housing, right? And so you're sitting there, like, if that's the first lens you learn, like you're just zooming in and out, trying to get places, and like, I like this thing, but I don't know how optics work, and I'm just gonna zoom in and kind of fumble my way around. Whereas my father and my students at Parsons, what I teach them with, and my private students and everybody, and here we are now, I'm teaching you this, is that the first lens you want to start off with, in my opinion, is the Nifty 50, the 50 millimeter. I don't care if it's a 1.2, f4, whatever. Your 50 millimeter is because that's how your eye sees life, right? So with that being said, is you can people use zoom lenses because they don't want to get closer, or they can't do a lot. And for me, I like that, because like this lens, as with any prime lens, is like you get one focal length. So it's like if your subject is too far away, you have to get closer. If you're too close, you have to get farther away. You have to make choices about how you take photographs. It shapes, like when you're not holding the camera in hand, you'll start thinking about how would I take a photograph with that camera. For me, it was years. It was a decade basically with that 50 millimeter. And then because I studied portraits from my father, he gave me a 105 lens, which I'll show you sometime. And that's how I started getting into the close-up, the nittier and grittier, and like what like higher lens numbers meant as far as like focal lengths and flatness of the lens. But basically my advice to you is like, if you want to change how you take photographs like overnight, ditch whatever zoom lens and get yourself like a Nifty 50, like whether it's on Craigslist, eBay, B&H, PhotoCare, which I'm a huge fan of, and get closer. Like I think it was Cornell Kappa that said like, if something you photograph isn't interesting enough, you're not close enough. And that's something, you know, from my father to a certain extent, I've lived with my entire life. Get closer, my son. Get closer. I love you. Get closer. We don't need all this around here. We want to see where's the drama? Where's the storyline? And so here we are 20 years some odd later, and I'm parroting the same things back because that's what works for me and what we do in the studio. So anyway, my guiding advice is like, if you also can, find a film, like we'll talk about this in another episode, no doubt, but like find yourself a 35 millimeter film camera so that you can enjoy the feeling, the sound, like what it's like to hold something heavy that's like built to last. This camera is from the 60s and I love every minute of it, a lot like every other camera that I have. And anyway, that's it in a nutshell. The Nifty 50. Find your focal, like find your frame. Anyway, that's it for us today. KARJAKA. This is Alex KARJAKA of KARJAKA Studios. Don't forget to follow us, like us, and all the other jazz that everybody talks about in the comments or wherever you're watching this. And we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.